Hello, my name is Dakota Wozniak, and I decided to do my multimedia project on missing and murdered Indigenous women, which can be considered a contemporary feminist issue. So it's about the shocking amount of Indigenous women that go missing and are murdered every year, and this issue is very prevalent in the United States and Canada, and it's even been referred to as an epidemic. So to give some background on this issue, these are some facts that I thought would help you understand the scope of the issue. So the first one is, according to the Urban Indian Health Institute, the third leading cause of death for American Indian and Alaska Native women is murder. The next one is 5,712 missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls cases were reported in 2016. However, an issue within the issue is that many believe these reported numbers are incorrect and that they could be much higher, and the Urban Indian Health Institute specifically believes that. So of the 5,700 MMIWG cases reported in 2016, only 116 were logged into the U.S. Department of Justice's Federal Missing Persons Database. And additionally, no research has been done on rates of such violence among American Indian and Alaska Native women living in urban areas, despite the fact that approximately 71% of this population lives in urban areas. Because of this, the Institute collected their own data from 71 urban cities in the United States, and they found 506 MMIWG cases within these cities. And through these numbers, we might have some representation of the number of missing and murdered Indigenous women in the United States. However, NPR.org states the exact number is unknown because the Federal Bureau of Investigation isn't really tracking the numbers. And that's been a huge issue within this issue, is that the data just isn't there, so we don't know how many women and girls are actually missing or murdered. So now that we've talked about what this issue is, I also thought it would be important to state why this is a feminist issue as well. So firstly, women, specifically Indigenous women, are clearly being targeted, and this issue is another adversity these women have to face because of their intersectionality. Along with that, it is also vital to the feminist issue to be inclusive. So feminism, in order to be just and intersectional, needs to work to include everybody. So this especially includes minority groups like Native American women. And if this is not considered a feminist issue, these women, these mothers, these daughters, these aunts, and these sisters can fall through the cracks and go unrecognized. Additionally, I think it's important to recognize that many of these cases are violent crimes, and violence against women is a huge feminist issue. It's stemmed from gender inequality and the thought that men have more power than women. And to just show the scope of how much women are impacted in these communities, the Indian Law Resource Center states that in some tribal communities, American Indian women face murder rates more than 10 times the national average murder rate. So this is obviously a huge issue within this community of women, especially Native women. So next is to talk about why this issue is important. So this is obviously important, to put it simply, because women are going missing and being murdered. Their lives shouldn't be glossed over, and they deserve justice. Additionally, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services claims that the Native American/Alaska Native population only makes up 1.7% of the entire U.S. population. So because the population of Indigenous people is so slim, and the population of women within that 1.7% is even smaller, these missing and murdered cases really hits the communities of Indigenous people very hard. So next is to talk about what are some of the different ways that feminists have responded to it. So one way is that feminists has responded to this issue is by marching. So this holds many meetings. They're intended to raise awareness about these missing and murdered women, demand justice for what's happened to them, memorialize them, and to show support for the families of these women. Another way of responding to this issue is hashtag MMIW and the phrase "No More Stolen Sisters." So this is the creation of this hashtag. It could be compared to the hashtag #MeToo movement in the way that it really raises awareness, because more people are going to obviously look up what it's about and just become more educated and aware of the issue. Another big way that feminists and others have been responding to this issue is that May 5th is now the National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Native Women and Girls Day. So this is a huge success, I think, in the issue because it's now nationally recognized and more people will be made aware of what the issue is, what it encompasses, and how they can make a difference to really help stop this. So the last big way I have of feminists and others responding to this issue is the Savannah Act. So The former U.S. Senator of North Dakota, her name's Heidi, was additionally one of the leaders in parts of this issue. So she had worked on prosecuting sexual assault cases as a lawyer and has been endorsed by the feminist majority. So she introduced something called the Savannah's Act to the Senate, and this act was based on a letter that contained solutions on what could be done about the MMIW issue. It was named after Savannah LaFontaine Greywind, who was a murdered Native woman, and unfortunately the bill didn't pass Congress. It was reintroduced, but again, it still hasn't been passed. But this is one way that would really, really help because it talks about issues like police working together despite jurisdiction and requiring the data about these cases. So after we've talked about all of this, what are some ways that you as a feminist or as just a person can respond? So firstly, we need to pass legislation to help this issue. We need to keep raising awareness about this issue. We need to keep marching. We need to keep posting about it using the hashtags. We need to keep remembering these victims and what's happened to them. We need to demand justice for these women and their families by investigating every case. And we need to end the gender and racial inequality in our country. That's really the root of this problem. So to do all these things, you can obviously be an advocate for them yourselves, but you can also vote for representatives that can help get all these things done. You can pressure your elected officials into passing things like the Savannah's Act, and hopefully, eventually, the numbers will go down after the awareness, after the legislation is passed, after more of these cases are looked into, and more justice has been served to these women and their families. Thank you for listening and watching my presentation. I think this issue is really important, and I think more people need to speak out about it, so that's why I decided to do it. Thanks again.